One of the most valuable lessons I've learned as an artist is the importance of self-care. When we hear that flight attendant telling us to put on our own oxygen mask before we can help somebody else, that sums it up. It might sound selfish to take care of ourselves first, but we have to. It's a truth, because you cannot take care of other people when you have not yet figured out how to manage your own energy. And it doesn't just happen. Protecting energy requires intentional effort, and that is a day-by-day, choice-by-choice event. And when I talk about it being a practice, I mean practice as a noun, because it's a plan. It's a routine. But it's also practice as a verb, because it's a routine, but it requires effort. And any practice that requires effort benefits from strategies. I like to know where words come from, so I looked up strata in the dictionary. I thought it might be the base or the root word of strategy, but I wasn't completely sure. And what strata means is layers of sedimentary rock or layers in a seabed. It means layers in our bodies, under the skin. It can also mean social layers of development. And the fifth definition in the dictionary is a series of layers or levels of thought. And I thought that was pretty damn exciting, to tell you the truth, because it only references what we do as artists. We do what I called in an earlier lecture I gave at another time, mining for meaning. We go down through all the layers of our experience and our thoughts and our ideas. And these are all things we care about. That's what drives it. The passion that drives it is what you care about and what you have experienced. And then that intersects with the techniques you use and the materials you choose. So artists work with strata all the time. And as it turned out, strata is part of strategy, that word. And it links back to both the French and the Greek, but as is often true, these words get jammed together. So strata is the layer part, and strategist or strategy is a larger meaning. Strategies are plans. So when the military has a strategy, it's layers of planning that are meant to win a particular conflict, or in some cases a war. And when businesses have strategies, they're working through the layers of what it takes for a business to be successful. And when artists have strategies, we have them on two levels. We have them on the level of how we are going to proceed to create a particular work of art, but we also have strategies based on what our goals are for how we're going to build a professional career. And that involves layers too. So I love this because artists use strata and layers and strategies all the time. Now, strategy as a word, including strata, literally meant the command of the general, because the general oversees the strata or the multitude or the army or the structures. And I just found that to be pretty terrific, because it's another way to think about what we do as artists in the world and, frankly, as engaged human beings on the planet. We can become the general commanders of the layers of ourselves, our experiences, and also our creations, which then fuels what we make. So a great definition here that we have is actually the same definition of self-actualization when you start thinking about it. Being commanders in charge of whatever we create and utilizing the strata of our lives as both inspiration and also resource allows us to take the work that we make to a deeper level. And at that deeper level, it's more personal, and it's also more distinctive. So in order to become the commander of your art life, what about a plan? I think it's as important to have a plan for handling the emotional side of being an artist as it is to handling how you're going to get from point A to B in making a piece. And from the emotional standpoint, and I don't know, there's a part of me that is still questioning, and yet I already know the answer. Male artists, and those of you who are in the room, please speak up. Have this same emotional commitment. It's not always as easily recognized because of the culture that we live in. But from an emotional standpoint, we have to use the energy that we have, being commander of ourselves, to develop a plan for how we're going to deal with the downside, which is how are we going to deal with stress, how are we going to deal with boredom, how are we going to deal with the comments made by other people who have no idea what we're doing and don't understand it at all, how we're going to deal with what happens when we get stuck. And that's where the self-care component comes in. I wasn't looking for a new plan, but I found one, and I found a set of strategies in a rather unexpected place, to tell you the truth. I have studied archetypes, which are symbolic patterns of human behavior, since 2002. Archetypes allow us to relate to one another because we all recognize the patterns, but that's another lecture. While studying archetypes, I was introduced to the chakras, which is the body's energetic system. The word chakra in Sanskrit means wheel or circle, and the original yogis who imagined or were understanding the chakras described them as constantly spinning energy centers around the human form. So this energetic system that's interacting with your physical system. There are 7 centers in the body, and each one of them has an influence over a particular part of the body, but also has an influence over the energetic or spiritual part of the body as it is related to this system. So studying chakras is one more way of knowing yourself better and understanding or seeking the idea of alignment. Now, when I talk about alignment, I'm not at all talking about when you go to the chiropractor and your body is aligned and you're standing steady and true and you have no aches and pains. I'm not talking about that. That's a great alignment, and wouldn't we all love to have that? But that's really not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about alignment from the perspective of when what we love to do and what we're good at doing intersect. And so a couple examples of that. You can not be real great at doing something yet, but you love it and you're committed to it, then you're in alignment. So we're not talking about perfection. It's 2 different things. You can also really dislike what you're doing, but you're so good at it, you can't, in your own mind, you can't quit. People keep saying, why wouldn't you do that anymore? You're so good at it. Well, the reason you wouldn't do it anymore is because you're not in alignment. And so there are many choices to be made to figure out when what we want to do and what we're good at doing are matching. So I was studying the chakras, and as I did, I realized that each chakra has a lesson for the artist to learn. And being engaged with those lessons and understanding what they are gives us the ability to develop the strategies that will help us move from being beginner artists, which is fine. Inexperience is not a bad thing. But these strategies can help us move into being a fully actualized artist with a distinctive voice. Now, I want you to keep in mind that every chakra has a positive side and a shadow side. That might sound threatening or negative, but it really isn't, because when you think about the world around us, everything has a downside and an upside. There wouldn't be a phrase, think about the silver lining, if that wasn't true. So as it relates to chakras, we want to look at these lessons that we have to learn and see where sometimes maybe we're in a negative place, and then we can rise. And maybe we can accept when we're in a good place, and we can celebrate. But the important thing is realistic self-knowledge. Because if you're not realistic about your strengths and your weaknesses, your shadow side and your light side, you're not in any position to change anything. You're not even in a position to say that you're comfortable where you are and you're going to live with it. And all of that's fine. You can choose to live with exactly the way you are, and it can be fine, and you have no defense to make to any other person. Or you can think, I'd really like to improve this a little bit. And that would be great. But you know what? It's all the bottom line. It's about intentionality. So I'm going to work our way up from the first chakra based on the handout that I gave you. And we're going to start with the first chakra because that is what grounds us from a group perspective. The first chakra energy is about survival as part of a group, functioning within a group. So first chakra energy is about the relationship we have to the people around us, to our families, and to the society that we live in, and on a more personal level, to the individual clubs and groups that we're part of. This is where we learn standards and customs. The positive side of first chakra energy is the sense of belonging. We want to be part of a tribe. It's perfectly natural. Now, the shadow side of the first chakra energy is what happens when one member thinks or behaves differently from how the tribe has always done it. Because then the disapproval begins, and we've all experienced this. You want to try something new, you have a big idea, you mention it to somebody who's basically part of your tribe, and the response you get isn't, go for it, that sounds fantastic. The response you get is, well, we haven't ever done it that way. If that is what you are being told, you're dealing absolutely with first chakra energy, dismissiveness and naysaying based on fear. And there's a good reason for it, but it's evolutionary. A tribe cannot afford dissension within the ranks. From the survival angle, from the beginning of humankind, tribes had to stick together. One rogue element could jeopardize the entire tribe, could threaten the safety of the entire tribe. So it's important to remember that when you're thinking about the first chakra, because it's important to get that evolutionary perspective, because when you have that evolutionary perspective, you're not going to take it personally. You're going to recognize it from an impersonal standpoint, and then that will be helpful. Now, when you're ready to evolve into the second chakra, which is how it works, because basically you evolve up from the tribe into the second chakra, into the third chakra, into the fourth chakra, and while that evolution is happening, all those parts are getting integrated, and you're becoming a stronger, more centered human being. It's fantastic. But when you're evolving into the second chakra, and you're really ready to go there, it doesn't necessarily mean the tribe is ready to let you go. They may feel threatened. So that's the challenge. You've got to evolve anyway. When it's time to leave the tribe, it might be painful, but you've still got to go. It's the calling of your life to move beyond the tribe. That's not to say you can't still enjoy being with them. We all have Thanksgiving or holiday celebrations. We go to the beach in the summertime. We love our families. We love our tribes. That's perfectly fine, but it's the calling of your life to move beyond the tribe and not let them influence you as far as what you're making and creating is concerned. You cannot let their feelings or their beliefs keep you from your path. So to sum up the first chakra challenge, it's this. If your work is going to evolve, you've got to quit caring what other people think. The second chakra, the sacral chakra, is located in your lower abdomen, and it is the seat of personal power. This is about interactions with others on a one-to-one basis, and it includes struggles over power and money and sex and perseverance and creativity. Once you have evolved into the second chakra, you're not that worried about what the tribe thinks anymore. You're not that worried about survival within the group, because now you're evaluating situations in terms of your own personal survival, your own personal power. So these questions come up. Will I have enough money? Will I find a compatible partner? Will I meet others who are chosen to be my companions, which is different from the tribe that you landed in when you were born? Are my ideas good enough? And the shadow side manifests when we allow ourselves to be taken advantage of, or we're disenfranchised by others, because we're still learning to claim our place in the world. So, the challenge of the second chakra is to become more personally sure of the validity of your ideas and your processes, so that you can move away from needing tribal approval and turn the approval inward, which means to manifest your own power. The third chakra is located in the solar plexus, and this is the site of intuition and self-esteem. When we learn to trust our intuition, we're supporting that second chakra power. We're learning to manage our own energy, and we're being supported by your intuition. Because every time you notice intuitively you had a hit and you followed it and it turned out great, every time that happens, you learn to trust your intuition more, and that, just by the very nature of the process, increases your self-esteem or confidence. Activating the trust of your intuition is one of the most fruitful things you can do in your lifetime, because it will serve you not only as an artist, it will serve you in every aspect of your human life. And to make that really clear, the third chakra challenge to the artist is to embrace intuition and, through it, self-esteem. Because without it, we never develop that unwavering center that we need, the core that cannot be shaken by other people's opinions. I have talked in the past about the committee. These are the people who criticize the choices that we make and the things that we're doing, and yeah. It's never invited. We don't ask for this. And sometimes we internalize it, and then we become our own worst critic. And then we're our own worst committee member. And here's the thing. The committee has the potential to shut down an artist at work. Learning the lesson of the third chakra allows us to see realistically when we are being affected by committee members, and gives us a few ideas about how to handle that, including sometimes distancing ourselves from those people because we have no choice. Now, distancing, disclaimer, doesn't mean you leave them, you never see them again, but it could mean that you decide in your own head, I'm not listening to that anymore, that person doesn't know what they're talking about, or it could be a discussion where you say, I just wish you wouldn't talk to me about this stuff. Right now, it's off limits. We all have to find out where that level of dealing with the committee is, but then when we're clear about it, we have to proceed without regret. The fourth chakra is the heart chakra, which is, of course, located in our chests, below our shoulder blades. And I love this chakra because it's the seat of emotional connections, love, and the grace of forgiveness. The challenge to the artist is very simple. What will you do to love your own work best? What commitment will you make to your work so that you love it better than anybody else's work? Because it's your birthright. It doesn't mean that you can't love other people's work. I see work all the time that blows me out of the water. It's so incredible, and I wish I could do it. But I still love my own work. And that's how it has to be, because each of us deserves the experience of being headlong in love with what we do and being content with it, despite any formally perceived issues or problems or imperfections. The fifth chakra is the throat chakra, right here. This is the seat of your willpower and also of your power of choice. So think about the phrases that reference voice. Keeping your word or giving your word to someone else, that used to be sacred. There was a point in time when you would give your word to someone, and that was an absolute sign of trustworthiness, although it doesn't seem to be so true now. There are two sides to the energy of the fifth chakra. On one hand, you're strengthening your own willpower, your own voice. But at some point, you're also thinking about surrendering that will to a higher power, which is also a choice. And once again, the two are not mutually exclusive. So the challenge for the artist from the fifth chakra also has two parts. First, there is this opportunity to give a visual voice to your individual vision. But more importantly, it's an opportunity, really, to use your voice and your choice to make a difference in the world. That's what artists can do. You can take the distinctive combination of your intuition and your heart and your mind, bring it through fifth chakra energy. And you can affect the world in whatever way you discern is right for you. And by the way, nobody can predict that. That's all very individual. The sixth chakra, in the middle of your forehead, is often called the third eye. That might sound odd, but think of it this way. I don't know why I usually think of this with mothers, but have you heard that phrase, she has eyes in the back of her head? What that really means, why it's relevant here, is because a mother, a parent who has that kind of wisdom, knows what the children are doing, even though he or she has not actually seen it yet. So to have eyes in the back of your head is a lot like having the third eye, because right up here, sixth chakra, that's about wisdom. That's about your intellectual ability to engage with the world. So this is the place where ideas come into the energetic system, where they are evaluated and considered. And imagination is focused, and it's directed by the sixth chakra. If ideas are determined to have merit, sometimes they do, not sometimes, they pass down to the fourth chakra to see how the heart feels about it, because these two work in tandem. If the heart really likes what's happening, then the project picks up steam. And when speaking about an idea happens, then the throat chakra is involved, fifth chakra, and it's very likely the project will come to fruition because you're speaking the project. But there's a disclaimer. We have to be so careful to be mindful before we start to talk about a project, because if we're not mindful, then maybe we get a little bit ahead of ourselves, and what happens is that then we talk an idea to death. And when that happens, it's very unlikely the project will come to fruition. So the challenge of the sixth chakra to the artist is to consider ideas mindfully and from the angle of the other chakras. Does it have an intuitive hit? Is there sort of second chakra power here? Is the heart racing a little, anticipating the outcome of the project? Does the idea have meaning and relevance Could it even affect first chakra, the tribe? The crown chakra is the seventh chakra in the energetic system, and this is at the top of our heads. It's the connection to something larger than we are, what we sometimes call the divine. Even if you don't have a religious or spiritual practice, you have probably experienced the mystery that happens when ideas come out of nowhere. So no matter what we call it, we know it exists. It's unfathomable, it's beyond us. And the challenge of the seventh chakra is to stay open to that potential, to stay in present time to the best of our abilities so that ideas won't go unnoticed or unharvested as they swirl around us at every moment of every day. They're like sunshine. They're there, but unless we stop and actually acknowledge that they're there, they can be so missed. And yet when we acknowledge them, we're so grateful. Now, I'm a pretty practical teacher. I'm influenced by my own failures in life, frankly, and by the thousands of interactions I've had with students over the course of my career. So I can't walk away from what I've shared here without summing it up so that you have something tangible to use when you go back to your studios and our conference has ended. The first thing I want to say is that I don't think it matters, it doesn't matter to me, whether you go at this from a spiritual perspective or not. If you're not the kind of person who has that side to your life, it doesn't make that much difference because what we're talking about here are universal truths. Dealing with other people, dealing with our own feelings, honoring ourselves. These are universal truths in the same way that gravity is a universal truth. There was a period in time when gravity was not acknowledged or recognized, but it was still there. And these universal truths are still there, whether we stop to think and acknowledge them or not. They stand on their own. So if there is a universal truth in what I've shared, I'd like to sum it up in the following way. Number 1. Sooner or later, you have to quit caring what other people think about your work so you can move your own agenda forward. And remember, it's not selfish because you will help out. You will take care of others as needed. Number 2. There is power in taking ownership of your ideas and your processes. Befriend them and get to know them intimately. Number 3. There is power in centering and trusting the intuitive when it comes your way, and it will. This is not static, however. It requires fresh commitment and recalculation every day. Number 4. There is power in investing emotionally in your work. Please love it and cultivate that loving investment. See it as your armor and your lifeblood. Number 5. There is power in witnessing to your individual vision, in giving that vision a visual voice. You may be fearful, but please engage your willpower and do it anyway. Number 6. There is power in being mindful of ideas and honoring them. Use considered thought. Realize that it's the analytical part that bonds with the heart part, the emotion that brings a project through to completion. Number 7. There is power in recognizing that sea of ideas swirling around your head at every moment. Be open, be grateful, and be ready. These 7 challenges to your artist can be summed up in this simple 7-line phrase, which I consider my daily practice, and which I offer to you as the foundation for your own artist's self-care. Stay in present time, seek only the truth, surrender your will to God, Love is the only true power. Honor thyself, honor one another. All is one. Thank you very much.